does the lion, why they do the lion.
Very cutthroat.
I'm sure a lot of you are going to hate us.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
No more lies, no more noise, no more gadgets, no free course. Show the data, show the proof. That's
First, if you want to call it pilot, go ahead.
do. No more lies.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all golfers around the world, all 148 million golfers. All we got to do is get just a little small percentage of that. Let the music play, and we'd be number one. Brian Manzella coming to you from New Orleans.
And Sam Osborne coming to you from Wisconsin. How are we doing, guys? How you doing, Brian?
And gals, and youngsters, doing pretty good. So we've been on a list kick, and we've done a couple shows on my personal. Thank God. I hate to see what the chatbots would have done with the 100 greatest swings of all time.
Oh, yeah.
But we're on the golf books thing. There's never really been. I will say. I'm not saying. I'm pretty sure it was Grok's, or maybe it was ChatGPT. It doesn't matter.
It was Grok, you said, yeah, the last one.
It was not Claude. So we have Claude's list today. You know, I would, if you and I spent a week each
Yeah.
making our own list and going back and forth between all 3 or 4 of the major chatbots, I'm pretty sure we could come up with a better list and then prepare even more than our top of our head. But that's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be so smart. We have it off the top of our head. and maybe be a more definitive show on it. I don't think there's ever a talk like this. There really isn't. You know, I don't know. People don't really read books. They don't read them as much as they used to. Everybody's got a bias. I'm not saying I don't have a bias.
Yeah.
I'll give my competitors their due. I don't care how much they're a pain in my gula, as we used to say when I was younger. To recap from last time, it was Harvey Pennick's Little Red Book, which we disagreed with, Ben Hogan's 5 Lessons, and The Golfing Machine.
Yeah.
And then Golf is Not a Game of Perfect, Short Game Bible, Every Shot Counts, Plain Truth for Golfers. I don't know how that finished in the top 10. It should be in the top 50.
Yeah,
For sure. On Learning Golf, Swing the Club At should be on any historical list. I don't know about the top 10.
Yeah.
Because remember what this top 10 is, folks. It's the top 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I think we got 50 here on Claude. The top 50 most influential, not the biggest sellers, most influential books of all time. Right, Sam?
Yeah, and instructional books. So on the last one, we agreed with a few of them and disagreed with quite a few of them, I would say. So, you know, the Bob Rotella one, we get to a grey area there because it is a kind of instruction book. Obviously, it's mental. And we were pretty much on board with that one. And then we got, was it Zen Golf was in there? And
Zen Golf was somewhere there. Come on.
I don't think even Joe Parent would agree that should be in the top 10 most influential golf books of all time. So it's interesting. But when you were saying earlier, Brian, that how people would disagree and, you know, it's your own personal bias and so on, that's kind of the fun of all these lists. It's not a definitive 100%. List. It's it's our opinion or Brian's opinion in the case of the golf swing one. And it's fun to have the back and forth. And, you know, already from the golf swings, the first top 10 one, the comments, it's welcome. Like, you know, obviously there's a few saying, Bobby Jones, how can you not have Bobby Jones in there? Which, you know, that's a decent argument. But we love to hear it anyway. So any opinions welcome.
So I put Claude on the job.
Yeah.
And these are the 12 of the Claude top 20 that aren't on the Grok top 20.
Okay.
So we're just going to go through those. I'm going to shoot the name out, Mr. Osborne, and you're going to give me your. Remember now, would it be in your top 20? The top 20, right? You know what I mean?
All right.
Okay, number one on this didn't make the other top 20. Remember now, The swing thing was 100% out of my coconut, but and I did some research, okay, and
Yeah.
but it was my list. This is the chatbots arguing with each other. Okay, here we go. First one on the Claude list that didn't make the Grok list: How to Play Your Best Golf All the Time by Tommy Armour. They had it at number 9.
Yeah, I mean, so nowadays most people won't have heard of this book, but at the time, incredibly influential. Up until, I would say, probably mid-70s, it would be my guess. Even though I wasn't alive, that's just from reading other people's perspectives in other books and so on.
So historically influential, but not necessarily today.
Well, it depends how you look at it, because if it changed people's golf swings from the 30s until the 70s, you know, the sort of butterfly effect, or whatever you want to call it, maybe players would have been playing differently at that point. But yes, probably not today, because we have different instructional abilities just through technology and so on. But anyone that's read this book, it's great. You can see why it was so popular. Tommy Armour appeared to be quite a character just in his writing style. Even though I'm sure it had a ghostwriter, it still sort of shines through there. And I still have this book at home. It's one of the first sort of old golf books that I had. So it has sort of a place in my heart. So it might be in my top 20 for Sam's personal influences. And there's still some great stuff in there. When we're talking about the torques and forces in the swing, Brian, he does not shy away from getting that club head to the ball with your hands. And
no doubt about that.
Sort of the famous quote from the book is, "Get your hands in front of the ball and then hit the hell out of it with your right hand," which is one way of putting it.
That's one way of putting it, right? You need some drag to get the hands forward enough.
Yeah.
And then you need some outright torque.
Yeah.
To get the club to the ball and snap the club head into the ball.
I will say overall, although he talks about the pivot, getting your left knee behind the ball and things like that, Tommy Armour was very much, from what I can understand from reading Henry Cotton and a few other people, very much a hands player, which is different from today, no doubt, when you see most of the PGA Tour players at least. If you go and look at his swing on YouTube, that's not a bad model for most golfers today, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
But
it should be noted, as far as I know, he was the first major champion to then get into teaching, and I guarantee you, at any time in his teaching prime, for lack of a better term, he was top 5. If you were, wealthy movie star, industrialist, or wannabe tour player, and you could go to somebody, he was very high up the list. So the book ought to be there. And number 2 on the books that didn't make the Grok list but made the Claude list, at number 10 on the Claude list, Bobby Jones on golf.
Yeah.
You ever read it from back to front?
I think I did, but a long, long time ago.
A hell of a writer. I think he did a lot of the writing.
Well, he was a hell of a writer.
I'm sure he had a ghost, editor. But
yeah, but he was a hell of a writer. We know he's very eloquent. Anyone who's heard him talk on any of those videos that we discussed on the swing episode, clearly an intelligent man. And in those days, I feel like people were a little bit more eloquent, perhaps, anyway. But
thusly, that Manzella boy.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, that might be what he'd be saying right now. Now, I'm a little bit surprised, because the one that sticks in my mind is "Golf Is My Game" by Bobby Jones. But what do you think, Brian?
I've read them both. I think it was very influenced by probably somewhere on the internet, because remember, it's the chatbots are scouring the internet.
Yeah. I
think everybody just thinks that the prose, not necessarily the information, the writing itself that got on the the page was just prettier, but definitely deserves it should be probably somewhere on historical top 20 influences, because he was the greatest golfer in the world. He had the ticker
Yeah.
tape parade, and
Yeah.
he wrote a book, and I'm sure people read it, and teachers and pros read it,
Yeah.
and people applied it. And I don't think anybody's talking about it now, but that doesn't mean that
Yeah.
it wasn't talked about a lot. Now here's an interesting next one.
Okay.
Because we're kind of all into players here. Number 11 on the Claude list that didn't make the Grok top 20, the complete golfer by our boy, Harry Vardon.
Yeah. Now, my long-suffering parents still have a lot of my golf books in England. So I was there last year and I found this one in the attic in my parents' house. So I did have a look through here, read of this recently. And yeah, some fantastic stuff in there. It is a little bit hard for me to say how influential it was because
How do we know, right?
how do we know how many people were reading it, if they implemented anything from it? But Harry Vardon himself was incredibly influential. But I think this was written a little bit past his prime. But still, I'm sure that Harry Vardon was probably influential in sort of secondary ways, like affecting people like Alex Morrison that might have actually influenced the game of instruction a little bit more. Would you say that's fair, Brian?
I don't think there's any doubt about that. I'm just doing a little search for the next book on the list. I'm sorry, but let's get to it. But I would think though that Vardon, he was again just like Jones, the best player in the world. Armour was a top probably 5 player at his best, which is no slouch. Okay,
Yeah.
But these two guys were the Tiger Woods of their day, the Jack
Absolutely.
Nicklaus's of the Ben
Absolutely.
Hogan of their day,
Yes.
and they wrote a book, and I'm sure it influenced people a lot. This
Yes.
one, I've when I look at the picture of it, I've seen it. It was published in 1887, The Art of Golf by Sir W.G. Simpson. I need to do a little work. I'd seen the book. I might even have the
Yeah.
book or had it before Katrina. I might have skimmed through it, but I couldn't tell you one damn thing about it.
Well, this is No More Lies. So I have to say I have not seen that book. I remember the title and the author's name, but that's as far as I can go. While I'm not arguing because I haven't seen it, that would tend to suggest that perhaps it wasn't as influential as some other books that are on the list. But to be honest, I can't say. Perhaps we should ask Mike Hebron.
So we really need Hebron for this one. This is the Golfer's Manual, written in 1857, as they said back then.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that these books,
Yeah.
in their day, I mean, like, I don't know, 1857, they were writing books. But I'm just saying, if you're getting 2 of them by these 2 boys right here, you
Yeah.
got to go to somebody older than both of us. The next one I'm very keen on, Golf Fundamentals by Seymour Dunn. Claude had it at 14. It wasn't in the top 20 of Grok. The first book that really got positional and tried to get geometric, right?
Yes, yeah, very. So this is getting more to an era where we at least knew people who were alive. Yes, I can remember the photographs from this, and he's trying to faithfully get into the positions, and you can tell once you have some golf knowledge of other methods and so on, you can tell what he's trying to prescribe during the swing. And a little bit closer to where we got in, let's say, the 90s, which might have been the sort of golden era for golf instruction books, where you're looking at setup, then halfway back, 3/4 full, and so on throughout the swing, and then describing that in the written word. So I would say that it would be more up there for me in terms of it. We still haven't quite got to the top 20 yet, but I would say that in the history of golf, that this was probably pretty important at the time.
He lived a decent life. Length. He was
Yeah.
born in 1882. He was a Scottish professional golfer. designer of golf courses, and he passed in January 8, 1959. He almost made it to Manzella in 61 there. I've read this book a decent amount back in the day. It was one of the books in a series of books that Golf Digest reprinted, like in an old look on the old style paper. The Hogan book, one of the Jones books, and there was one other one, and this one. So I had the book pretty far back. Obviously it's a reprint, but just nobody really. I think he did a better job with Plane of the Golf Club than Hogan did, because Hogan really wasn't talking about the plane of the actual golf club, was he? He was talking about the overall swing and the left arm plane, and where this chap was 100% talking about the club plane.
Yeah, and he had the circle.
Yes, and he had that. And he had he'd pull basically pop a line and try to put the shaft, pointing to the baseline, a la the golfing machine many years later.
Yeah.
This one is notable for one reason that I will tell you after I get your opinion of it. This was the 15th ranked book on the most influential golf books of all time by Claude, and did not make the top 20 on Grok. Picture Analysis of Golf Strokes by Long Jim Barnes.
I have this book somewhere.
Well, it is famous in the Manzella world.
Okay.
My little world.
Yeah.
This is the book that Ben Doyle learned to swing from. And
Wow.
he didn't learn to swing from this book through reading the book. Oh, I'm sure Ben did, because he was a very ardent reader of golf books. He had books you would not think he had in his beautiful bookcase at his house in Monterey, California. He would take the book out to practice, and the wind would blow the pages, and the sequence would seem to move. And
that's cool.
Barnes had a lot of lag, and so did Ben.
There you
If
go,
you
yeah.
saw, if you go look for Long Jim Barnes' swing, and I'm sure if you look for it, probably where you're going to see pictures from, if you do a internet search, is from this book, which I'm sure has been sold many, many, many thousands of times over the years, because it was one of the first books, I think, where it was primarily pictures.
Right.
Compared to almost all these other books, including the Seymour Dunn book.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. Long form reading content was the word of the day, if you'll pardon the pun. But back in those days, people would just sit and read a book for hours and hours. And then obviously trying to learn the sport through a book, I think probably somewhere in the 50s and 60s, they started to use the flip pages where you could watch. Specifically, I've got a great one with Sam Snead, 4 different angles, the driver book. Yeah, fantastic.
Supposed to be flipped book. Right?
It's quite difficult to do, but it's kind of part of the charm of it, I suppose. But I always loved that when you have the obviously you're supposed to flip it, but I like to look at the individual frame and just look at it and pick up all the little details. And shorter video, it's not a bad way to pick up the game. So there's some lovely books like that out there.
So any book that influenced a teacher that influenced a lot of people, including me, should be on the list, probably.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
The next one would easily be in my top 10. So Grok had it not on the top 20. Claude had it number 16, Better Golf Without Practice, Alex Morrison.
Yes, I think I totally agree without question. This influenced a ton of players back at that time, and probably way more coaches or pros. They would just call them pros then. But Alex Morrison was the kind of original golf instructor to tour players, if you like. Not in the same way that it is today, but he coached so many players, from like Henry Pickard, Sam Snead, and I say coached in a loose sense, because it's not like he would stand on the range with them every week like they do now.
Yep.
But changed their swing somewhat, or their concept of the swing, to so many players that he was really the original. And this book was kind of that summation of all of his golf knowledge, which was very much not of the time. So it was different. It wasn't just that he took a bunch of other instructors' ideas and made a book. Like, this guy had some original thoughts that were really useful and helpful for players. I mean, one of the main things that I can think of was footwork. Very different
Big,
from
giant
what anyone
on footwork. He had pictures, with bare feet, and bones,
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
X-rays of the feet.
No one had done anything like that before. So I would put this right up there too, Brian.
But the fact that Jack Grout was one of his star, or it may be his number one
Right.
pupil, doesn't mean just because you're not the best player that you ever worked with, it might be the best pupil that. I would think my best player, obviously David Toms, definitely I would put a couple of guys who are pupils of mine, like Tom Bartlett, ahead of David as pupils. They needed it more, or they got into it more. David, it means to an end. I mean, he's a tournament player.
Yeah.
I will say this, Brent White, who we've talked about before, wound up being the head professional for a while underneath. Mike Wright was always the head golf professional, but he was the general manager at Shady Oaks, knew Mr. Hogan very well. We always got to see some video when he would come back into town. Me and Tom Bartlett would sit in Tom's sunroom, and Brent would bring some stuff that they copied from work. And they had
Hogan stuff?
Yes.
Oh,
Very early Hogan and Snead. Now, how early? I'll tell you. Hogan's wearing a fedora, and Snead has more hair than I had 10 years ago. And I still have more hair than Snead had most of his known life. And both of them are finishing the swing, literally finishing the swing with the right heel ahead of the right toe and not spun on the right toe like Hogan at Merion, and including Hogan. And let me just tell you something about these two guys. I only saw one other person. I'm not saying I didn't see little kids that took lessons from me. I'm talking about players ever do what I saw these players do as we, stop action on the VCR.
Yeah.
Doing this, obviously, Alex Morrison idea. He thought the finish that we thought was a mistake. You would just kind of go to the three-quarter swivel spot, where the club is parallel to the ground for the last time, and just kind of cut the pivot off with your feet.
Yes.
And keep your head back, and that was a better finish.
Yes.
And Snead was able to do it, and Hogan was able to do it. But let me just tell you, when we stopped it and we went back and looked at it, at impact, where these guys' hips were and where their hips were at the finish with their foot still banked is not really that common, so uncommon that the only other person I could ever think of that was a champion that could have done it as much as they did, maybe somebody like Bruce Litsky, because that's the way they swung. Trevino didn't even get as open as these guys did.
Yeah.
Even with the foot like this. I mean, Trevino got open, but the foot wasn't still banked.
It was
it
gone,
wasn't banked. I don't want to, misunderstand, the stack and tilters love the banked foot. But the heel was ahead of the toe, and the heel was up like Nicklaus always did. I defy anybody to find a Nicklaus impact picture from any angle where the right heel's not up and ahead of the toe.
Yeah.
And famously, Grout, probably, with a Morrison idea, didn't like Jack's footwork and made him for a year not lift his heels up and only, as Ben Doyle would say, rolled to the welt of the shoe.
Yeah, right.
Toward the arches.
I remember reading that. Roll your ankles, right?
And then absolutely. And the number one thing that everybody could just instantly go, that's where he got it. He was big on at address, pre-turning your chin to the right. Yeah.
Wow.
Like Nicklaus, Bibbs. He did that on every shot. And he thought putting it over there on the toward the right shoulder, and then keeping it there well through impact was a super duper important want to do fundamental of the golf swing, and he deserves his spot on the list. Now, what's
100%.
very interesting is our friend Claude has the Morrison, A New Way to Better Golf, right behind that at 17. No, and we're not even going to talk about it. Now,
Okay.
but Power Golf did not make the Grok list, and here it sits. We talked about it a little bit last
Okay.
time.
Yeah.
The actual book Power Golf, which our friend Bill with Funnel, right, he got this week. I mean, he must have ordered it or he had it laying around. He took a picture of it and sent it to me, like the actual book.
Oh, really?
I have a couple of them because I lost mine in Katrina, and all my old forum followers, they kind of helped me restock, and I wound up with 2 Power Golfs. We had one before Katrina that was really good quality. Might have even been Michael Finney's. And we had a guy that we both kind of taught a little bit, and he had a big advertising agency in Louisville, and he had like a $10,000 scanner, and he scanned the pictures, the main sequence pictures from Power Golf, and those scans wound up in Mike Hebron's Secrets and Lies book.
Oh, really?
I don't know if
Wow.
I got credit, Mr. Hebron. Did you give me credit in the book? I don't
Okay,
know. I have
yeah.
to look. But they're my scans, but again, they're not my scans. They're like a book that we had that a
Interesting.
student of mine scanned, and they were very high quality. And somewhere in this building,
That's so funny.
on some hard drive, is all of those scans. I've put up those pictures on the forum a long time ago. I think just the pictures in the darn
Yeah.
book alone
Yeah.
gets the Power Golf on the top 30 for sure.
100%, 100%. I had that book when I was a kid, and I sort of looked at it, but I didn't really know what I was looking at because, I hadn't got enough data yet, if you like, of looking at different golf swings to know what's different about this swing than the next one. But the more of that data you have, you go back and look at the pictures, and it's like, oh God, and just what a perfect time to do it, because without anyone knowing it, it was before his accident. So we have this footage of him hitting the golf ball when he was arguably hitting it his best. Brian and I probably would.
Yeah, I think again,
Yeah.
if David Toms in his prime was hitting balls next to Mac O'Grady in his prime,
Yeah.
and a bunch of kids were walking and they looked at one and they looked at the other, they'd probably stand behind Mac and watch him just ka-choom.
Yeah.
But if they were playing the TrackMan Combine, David beat his ass. I mean,
Really?
the stats, and and he did it on the golf course too. I mean,
Right.
he hit. When I mean hit it better, okay, there's like hitting it and
Yeah.
making it go, and then there's like knowing where the damn ball's going and controlling the spin and the trajectory
distance. Yeah,
and the
right.
distance.
Yeah.
And I think he was probably better at that in '53, but what do I know? I wasn't there. Now the next 2 books, the last 2 here, Sam,
Yeah.
that made the Claude top 20 and didn't make the Grok top 20 are Practical Golf by Walter Travis, a book I know I had before and maybe just skimmed through, and Down the Fairway by O.B. Keeler and Bobby Jones, which was more wasn't really like an instruction book as much as it was like the Jack Nicklaus book, The Greatest Game of All, right? It was
Yeah.
like about the game more. It had a little instruction in it, but not much.
No, I don't count that as an instruction book, in my opinion. Lovely book, and O.B. Keeler, to anyone that isn't aware of him, kind of followed around Bobby Jones once it was obvious that he was going to be the player of his generation, and just followed him around, like watched him play every tournament. They were good friends, and O.B. Keeler would write columns for the newspaper, but then also write articles for magazines, and then obviously write books too. So there's a ton of O.B. Keeler stuff out there, and this was a great book, but not an instruction book in my opinion.
And definitely
even
not
though-
an influential instruction.
No. And then practical golf, I thought you were going to say John Jacobs.
For whatever reason here, where is Practical Golf by John Jacobs? Like it
Yeah.
misread it, but no, it has it actually in the top 10, right? I mean, where it belongs, the 1972
Okay.
version of John Jacobs Practical Golf.
Okay.
If you don't put this in your, I don't know if we had it on the other list, and you can't trust these things all the time.
Yeah.
If you don't have Practical Golf by John Jacobs in your top 10, you don't know what you're doing. You need to go back and read all of these books again and call me in the moment. Okay, but here's all I need to tell you about John Jacobs. As he got older, and he lived a nice, decent length life, okay? The ripe old age, like they say. He was still with it, and he did lots of interviews and stuff.
Yeah.
Right? He was, you're closer to the one way than the other. And the last 10,000 words I ever read about this guy or read from interviews, I agreed with all of it. I don't agree with all of myself. I'm watching lessons I gave that are in the show, and I'm going, I could have done this. No, this guy had boiled down the essence of teaching golf and how the golf swing works.
Yes.
Better than anybody else who ever lived so far historically. Not the science of it, just the, if you do this is going to happen. But if you do that, then these other two things might happen. And he was one of the few guys that could walk the range at a tour event or a Ryder Cup and fix everybody.
Yeah,
Which
he was a
something I aspired to my whole life.
He was like a golfer's golf instructor, if you know what I mean. Like, he could speak your language, say the minimal stuff possible to get you to hit, either play well or hit a few good shots after you've been miserable for weeks. That's the sort of guy he was. And unfortunately, I never met him, but I know I have a lot of friends that they worked with him for quite a bit. Always improved, which was interesting. But it wasn't the tear your swing down, it's going to take 2 years to rebuild. He didn't do that with anybody. How can we improve your ball flight right now? And within a few swings, you're hitting it better, and in some instances really turn people around very quickly. And if we've got time, I've got a short story about my one of my good friends in the UK, Zane Scotland. So Zane Scotland originally
Say his name again?
Zane Scotland.
Zane?
Yes, yeah, unusual name.
Scotland, like the country.
You won't forget it.
Zane Scotland. How about that?
So he
What a
qualified
great
for the
name. Damn.
yeah,
You ought to have a
fantastic.
clothesline.
Well, and he's the same age as me, slightly younger actually, and he's coaching mostly now. But he was basically a phenom as far as I was concerned in my area. Just won everything when we were juniors. Qualified for the Open Championship when he was 16, which was a big deal, obviously. Which was 299 at Carnoustie, which was a bit of a rotten one to get stuck with. But anyway, a few years went by and we were about 25 or 26, and Zane had some injury struggles, which is ultimately what hurt his career. But we were playing on the Challenge Tour, which is not that much fun. You'd want to be on the European Tour at the time. But the two opportunities that you got, they don't do Monday qualifying, or ever did when we were doing it on the European Tour. So the two chances you got were the Open Championship and the French Open. And maybe a month or so before the French Open qualifying, Zane had gone to see John Jacobs, because he's quite a student of the game, Zane is. And he went to see John Jacobs, and John Jacobs told him two things. I think he said, change the face at address. He never liked to see it hooded because it didn't get the club going back on the right path. And so I think he said, weaken the face at address a little bit. And then something else with his takeaway. So he had a drill where he would start with the face a little bit open and then take it back. And there might have been one other thing, but it was basically a couple of little tweaks. and he just started hitting the ball great. And he went from being one of the better Challenge Tour players to suddenly just shooting 5 under every round. It was like magic fairy dust. And Zane became the Zane that I knew when we were 17, 18. He would just shoot 5 under. Every time I looked at the leaderboard, he'd shoot 5 under. Qualified for the French Open, top 10 French Open, gets in the next week. Top 10 that week. This is on the European Tour now. And French Open, one of the biggest money events on tour. And he kept that top 10 thing going and got his card without going to tour school, which nobody really did in Europe. A few people have done it in the States. And I said, Zane, what's going on with your game? And he just told me that stuff with John Jacobs. And I was like, I should have known. It's so he knew his stuff, wasn't afraid to talk to tour pros. So this is John Jacobs. Wasn't afraid to talk to tour pros. Anyone that was struggling when they got to the Ryder Cup, John Jacobs was there. He would just give them some of his fairy dust, and they'd at least be able to play and compete against the Americans. So, yeah, he definitely deserves a spot in that top 10, in my opinion, particularly with practical
and that
golf.
book, because you don't know this, but might as well tell you and all the folks listening at the same time here. But I did this Golf Teacher Hall of Fame thing, my Golf Teacher Hall of Fame, and I did this picture, and I put them all in their prime in this picture, in this like church cathedral, and we're gonna do a lot on that. Not the next couple of shows, but down the line, well before Christmas time. And we can talk at length about Mr. Jacobs, but this book, the point is, Practical Golf distilled that information, that his style and his basically what he thought about the golf swing very, very well in that book. Yeah. And the number one picture in the book is, if you want to hit it out of your shadow, it wasn't the words he used. Okay, this is Manzella speak. If you want to hit it out of your shadow, your shoulder plane has to be flatter than your arm plane, which is the opposite of the so-called one-plane swing, which, by the way, don't really want you to do that much either. So now we're straight off the Claude list. Now, the interesting thing about Claude, I've been using it to do some code stuff, and it's relatively clever as these chatbots go, but I think it got a little cute with this list, because not only does it have it in order, but it lumps some things together, like mental game and short game. And, for instance, we're not going to get to this, but method books, right?
Okay.
8-step swing, Ledbetter's The Golf Swing, 4 magic moves to winning golf, understanding, manual dilatories, understanding the swing, plain truth for golfers, right? We just talked about stack and tilt, the impact zone, one move to better golf. All these books, they have them lumped together. They have a list, but they're also in the list. So there's no way, if you said, hey, take the lumps out and reshuffle, that they come out like this. But we made, we were on the list the way the list, you play the course as you find it. So books number 21 through 24 are swing science books. Okay. And here they are. Now, obviously, the Golfing Machine's supposed to be swing science, and it was way up the list. And it's, we did all kind of social media stuff when we did that show. It's the most influential book right now at high level golf instruction. I don't think there's anything close, but these 4 are very very important books. And of course, we also talked about Search for the Perfect Swing. So those 2 books were in the top 10. And here we go, 21 through 24. I'll give them all to you, and then we'll tackle them one by one. The Science of the Golf Swing by David Williams, 1969. Should be noted that The Science of the Golf Swing, Search for the Perfect Swing, and The Golfing Machine were all published for the first time in 1969. One of the best years of my life. But by the way, 1969, I had a lot of good things happen to me back there in 1969. So there must have been something in the air. Okay, so here, again, back to the list. The 4 books they have lumped in swing science, 21 through 24. Science of the Golf Swing, David Williams, 1969. The Physics of Golf, Theodore Jorgensen, 1994. The Science of the Golf Swing, same name, but different book, Michael Jacobs, 2016. And Every Shot Counts, Mark Broadie, 2014 that was on the list that we talked about before. So the two sciences of the golf swing books and the physics of golf, all lumped there together. What about that, Mr. Osborne?
Well,
Did you ever
there's a
read the
couple-
David Williams book?
No, so I haven't read that one. So
Very tough to find. So, I'm sure there are folks that, like to read, and they got a hold of this podcast, and now they know we're on this kick, these lists. And then hey, another one on the books. Yeah, great. I want to, get on eBay and start. Man, that Science of the Golf Swing by David Williams, that sucker, that'll be $400. That'll set you back. You get a TP Mills putter or the Science of the Golf Swing.
Yeah, I've got a
David
TP
Williams.
Mills putter, so I'm halfway there. But so thanks for saying that, Brian, because I don't feel so bad now. But no, I haven't. Have you read it?
Yeah. For a lot of reasons, but it's good in this way. It attempted to take, the known science thought of the day, right, and actually analyze what was going on in a really, really good golf swing. Where I don't think Search for the Perfect Swing sort of danced around it. And listen, I have nothing against Search for the Perfect Swing, and I don't know if I said this in the other episode, but I have to say it because there's no more lies, and I'm coming off as a patsy the last couple. It gets a lot of run now on the other side because those guys all made friends with Mr. Cochran as an old guy. I hope that somebody makes friends with me when I'm as old as Cochran was.
Yeah.
And then they might say, oh, that Manzella is the greatest guy since sliced bread. But y'all know who y'all are. You know what I mean? But the book is great. Didn't need y'all to overinflate the importance of the book. The book is great.
Right.
The thing about golf science is there anything, I don't really care if something's scientific or not. Is it right?
Yes.
I don't care if it's a guy who's a porter at the golf course. Right? Let's just say let's not be racist here. He's an Italian like me, and he says, "Hey Manzella, why don't you come over here, and help me sweep this place?" Okay, so I got something for you. Yeah, yes sir, Mr. Antonio. What you got? I think I know something about this putting. You play? Never played the game in my life. I've been watching y'all for the last 30 years in this place, and I think I've learned something. Well, what is it? My ears would be this big. There wouldn't be any. They wouldn't be any bigger if Tiger told me something about it. So, and if it's right, it's right. If it works,
Exactly.
it works. So that's one thing. It might not be right. It could work and not be right. But I just want things to be right. And then you want to use them. And I don't know if anything from the David Williams book. It's a great book for its day, but I wouldn't plop 400 on it unless you got the dough now. You got people that have 37 watches. You can't even put them all on your arms at one time, and every one of them costs $20,000. Okay, that's a whole nother ball of wax. You got the dough, get the book, because it should be in a serious library of golf books like you have. But I would trade some of those other books to trade up to the Science of the Golf Swing, my personal opinion.
Yeah, so I guess the what you're saying there, I would agree with, is that to me the scientific method is you develop a thesis and then disprove that thesis at a later date because you have better technology or whatever. Then once this is disproved, although it might have been relevant, it's no longer relevant now, right? So. I'm not knocking the book because, like I said, I haven't read it. But.
And then supposedly, the experiment has to be able to be duplicated.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. That might be the scientific method. That is.
But that's different from talking about John Jacobs' book.
Doesn't mean anything. None of that means anything to me.
Right.
Because this is the way I look at it. If I'm running a swing here in the studio, okay, and I'm firing up Jacobs 3D, I'm looking at something very specific, like this. I'm on sort of a run of cupping people's left wrists.
Okay.
You're getting stronger grips. You got a lot of arch wrist influence out there. Dustin Johnson, Colin Morikawa, all these. And the regular people don't play very good from the club looking at the sky. Just my personal opinion. I'm not big on really weakening grips too much either. I like grips a lot. I'll play with
Yeah.
everybody, but I get that. Been getting a lot of wrist cup lesson this morning. Got the wrist cup. Guy hit it better immediately. Period. Okay. Take a kid like the kid that was here yesterday, and then me, and we'll each do a swing, and because he came yesterday with his wrists a little arched,
Yeah.
and he hit it damn good. Now
Yeah.
we cupped it infinitely better. Okay, great. Do it. Okay, we got one of each. Great. Now Manzella's going to do it. I'm not going to do it to Mr. Pelletier that was here this morning. Once he got, it took him a few swings to get it, with the club face looking more 45 and the
Yeah.
wrist looking the way I wanted it. I don't ever want him to ever make the other backswing again. So I wouldn't use him on a test. But, if you were here, Sam, you'd say, hey, make one with it.
Yeah.
And then I would look to see what the heck forces and torques were different in the two
Right.
swings. So beyond the kinematics,
Fantastic.
what happened different? Because
Yeah.
when you rotate that club in a different, on a different, position at the top,
Yeah.
the airplane on the club, the axis of the club is changed. So the forces and torques are going to be different. But why does it seem to be a big deal? It seems to
Right.
me that the golf swing works better if the wrist is not, arched. And I was a big flat left wrist teacher. I made posters of good swings that were flat left. So to me, I just want to know what somebody did that I can't figure out my own two eyes. And
Yes.
if I do that because Stephen Nesbitt wrote the best code in the history of golf instruction, that's it. I don't care if anybody can duplicate the test. They can kiss my on Canal Street. I don't really care. I just want to know. And then I'm going to try to help the students
Yeah.
who come in here and all the people I get to see now, on the Brian Manzella show on YouTube and in these two podcasts with Mr. Osborne here and No More Lies and the Putting is Fun show with John Ortega. And then I'm sure I'll pop on the other ones when they start up here in a couple of weeks. That's the sort of beauty to the every shot counts thing, right?
Yes.
And Broadie was always nice to me. I give it that. He's friends with the other guys. You know how that is.
yeah.
Scientists, they stick together. But I will say this. Does everybody use what he came up with? Hell
Yes.
yeah. The
and-
whole
and-
world is using strokes gained.
Yeah, so as much as this is probably the most recent book on the list, it might be one of.
Jacobs is 2 years.
Okay, yeah.
bu- 2
Apologies
years.
for getting Michael yet, but the rest of the books we've mentioned so far,
Absolutely. This is 2014, by the way. Every shot
yeah,
counts by Mark
it's
Broadie.
right up there, probably with one of the most important because it has changed the game in terms of how we look at what's important. Course strategy. I mean, almost everything, because what are you working on? We heard for donkey's years that you had to practice, 70% of your time from 60 yards in or 100 yards and in. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't practice that, of course, but if you are looking at the difference that makes the difference, it's going to be mid-irons to slightly longer. That is where a good player will kill every other player day in and day out. It's not because he can chip it from 30 yards to within 6 feet. It's all the rest of the game is still important. I'm not saying that, but this changed the game more than anything else that has happened in my lifetime, probably.
There's no doubt about it. And I always didn't buy that the best players just pitched and putted it better than everybody else. When I played my best, this was in my early 30s, score-wise, I think I've hit it better in the last 5 years on and off than I did then. Ought to be getting better, even though my body's going the other way. But still, my club head speed's not that. My high-end club head speed, 104, 104 and a half, it wasn't that much faster when I was 31. I mean, you were playing with clubs that were shorter and heavier.
Right.
You just, But
Right.
the point of the matter is that I shot better scores, okay? I got to plus 4.5 handicap. That's the lowest I ever was. And it
that's
really
good
was,
stuff.
unfortunately, the handicap thing, it was harder then. It was 10 of the last 20. Now it's 8 of the last 20. So it's a lot
Yeah.
easier to be a plus 4 now. So it's not apples to apples. But the big difference in my game then was, and I just look at this round I had this weekend on the Nunez Tour, I had 4 balls in the water. I think that's a record. In a round I broke 80. And a shank. I had one
my
shank
God.
that went in the water. I had 2 shanks.
What?
Full shot shanks, because I'm working on this extra long backswing thing. And
Okay.
every now and then it doesn't work with irons, but it works with the driver. I drove the ball like it was going out of style for most
Awesome.
of the,
Okay,
most
that's
of the
cool.
round. But here's what killed me. Off the tee and other long shots, on a golf course that has OB and water on every hole, and you're fudging away from the OB, obviously, bigger penalty. And I just wouldn't hit for. I would play golf. I could go back to that 18-month period of time. It's funny. I always said 18-month period of time, and Patrick Harrington,
Yeah.
most
right.
famous student of
Right.
Michael Jacobs, says everybody had their 18 months.
Yeah.
It
I
shows
thought
you how
about
much
that. Ever
old
since you
Patty
said
knows.
that, I keep thinking about that. Watching the golf, and I'm thinking, is this guy's 18 months?
Might be his 18 months. Might be Ryan
Yeah.
Fox's 18 months. So
Yeah.
there's just no way I would do it. I could hit a parachute slice. And if you made me nervous back then, I would aim further left and hit this giant, high, 125-foot high dive bomb and slice, and it
Okay,
would
yeah.
hit a fairway. I wasn't
Yeah.
going to miss a 50-yard, 40-yard fairway. And if there was water, I'd move it either to, start it way away from it and move
Right.
toward it or move it away from it. And that's in that long, it's the long shots. It's the 200-yard shot. That's
Yeah.
kind of what Broadie was saying.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so, it's easy for a lot of people to say, well, Manzella put this thing. I did not tell our friend Claude to put Michael's book on the, but it even also said, I asked about it, and it said, you check back in 10 years and it'd probably be higher up the list. This is what I would say about that book.
Interesting.
If somebody had the dough to tell Michael, we want you this off season to rewrite the book,
Yeah.
and I mean a major rewrite, it would be 50 times better. He just learned that much stuff in 10 years. 10
Wow.
years ago, he wrote this book. It almost killed him, really, to write this book. And I think that if we co-wrote it and he handled the super technical and I kind of, I don't want to say dumbed it down, but like for the people
Yeah.
who, need a little help,
Yeah.
I'd Manzella some stuff. I think it could be the greatest golf book ever written when it comes to technical information. But it has the most correct science in it. That's what
Right.
makes that book important. It's got a lot
Right.
of graphs. It's not that easy to read. It's a
Yeah.
giant book. It really doesn't, nitpick. The graphics would be a million times better 10 years later. You could just talk to, a chat bot and said, I need a picture of a golf club in 3D space pointing 23 degrees this way. And it would just make the graphic for you. Back then, you had to go hire a damn artist to do it for you. And
Right.
Michael tried to do it on his own. I will say this. The reason that this book deserves to be on the list, and probably even, if you went to 100 elements of the swing, which is the kind of precursor to the science of the swing that he wrote.
Yeah.
But I said this. I said, I wasn't there when Cochran and Stobbs did their research. I wasn't there when Hogan, was dictating this book to Anthony Ravielli and Herbert Warren Wynn.
Yeah,
I wasn't there when Homer Kelly was in that little shed with the 6-foot ceiling and that goofy plane board, and he had all the clothes for Diane Sawyer or whatever her name was, sounded like that. Ben always said, very attractive lady. Ben kept his eyes on the girls. And so, but I was there when Michael Jacobs slid over the computer with Gears XYZs on it, not Gears Avatar, the XYZs from Gears.
Right.
And I remember, because he had, when we used to go a couple times, I would go like 4 times a year. Michael would go like, 12. And this is one of the times. And I'm there. And he used to show this stuff from AMM and this, and Steve would always kind of blow it off. And I was thinking this is going to happen again, no big deal. One of these
Yeah.
days we're going to run a damn swing. That's what I'm thinking to myself. And he
Yeah.
slid the laptop over. He says, I think I can do something for you guys with this. Like, I was there, now.
That's cool.
Finney made fun of that. Obviously, he makes fun of everything I do. But it's this. The reason that everybody knows that if you swing down
Yeah.
and your swing direction is 0, that your path is to the right.
Yes.
Because of TrackMan, and not really just because of TrackMan, because you, Sam, and me, Brian, could buy a TrackMan. And like I said at the open forum about 4 or 5 years ago, you don't need anybody else to do research. You could do your own research. I could write a book this big on how to teach with TrackMan, and guess how I learned it? With 0 help from anybody else, right?
Right.
Okay, if you said Frederick helped me understand A, B, or C, Frederick could do all of that in 20 minutes. It was me grinding out 4 or 5 million balls in golf lessons that I know what I know about it. And we would know very little about the forces and torques in the swing from even if we would have kept going to see Dr. Steve and asking them questions and blah, 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 blah. When we got to run swings,
Yes. Yeah.
that
100%.
changed the game, and the book almost deserves to be on that just because that's the reason he was able to write the book.
Well, and if it means anything to you, Brian, if the second book that you mentioned ever came about, where you and Michael collaborated and you get to sort
Science of the Golf Swing for Dummies.
You could, well, yeah, I mean, you could
Yeah,
call it that.
basically, right?
If you could decode it into golfer's language and say, if you're this kind of player, you need to add this, or if you're trying to do this, stop, that kind of thing, that would be magic. And I'd pay a lot of money for that.
It's on the list. So speaking of lists, our time is up for the day, but we got 25 more books on this list. We have 80 more swings on the golf swing list. And then we have the Brian Manzella Teacher Hall of Fame. So while we're waiting for the Masters, which is in like 5 years from now, it seems like, we're going to keep you entertained with lists. And if you've got anything you want us to cover on any of these particular items here, just drop us a note. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It helps a bunch. And follow us on all the socials at Funnel Golf X. And Mr. O'Malley is playing the guitar, Sam. It goes so fast every time.
It does. It flies by. But thanks for listening, everyone. Thank you, Brian. That was fun once again. And more next week.
Absolutely.